Hello everyone, this is Tammy at the Pine River Public Library. This week we have a couple stories on Winnie the Pooh because January 18th this week is National Winnie the Pooh Day. I like Winnie the Pooh and his friends, so I picked out a couple fun stories for you. Our first story will be Winnie the Pooh and the Honey Tree. In a little house deep in the 100-acre wood, a very round bear named Winnie the Pooh was doing his slimming exercises. He was breathing deeply when all of a sudden he felt his tummy rumble. "Oh my," said Pooh, "this up and downing is making me hungry." Pooh hurried to the cupboard and got out his honey pot. "Bother," said Pooh, "there's nothing left but the sticky part." But the sticky part was better than no honey at all, so Pooh stuck his nose in the pot and licked up the last little bit. With his head deep inside the pot, Pooh heard a buzzing sound. "That buzzing means something," Pooh said. Pop! He pulled his head out and saw a bee fly out his window. "Buzzing means bees," said Pooh, "and where there are bees, there's usually honey." Pooh followed the bee through the 100-acre wood. When he came to the foot of a very tall tree, he looked up and saw the bee buzzing around a hole. "Honey!" said Pooh, and he began to climb. He climbed and he climbed all the way up the tree, all the way up to the hole. As Pooh leaned forward, the branch began to bend. The more he leaned, the more the branch bent, until he could almost reach the honey. He leaned just a little bit more, and snap went the branch, and down fell Pooh. He bounced from branch to branch to branch until he ran out of branches, and he landed head first in a bush. "Oh my," said Pooh, rubbing his sore head. "I guess it all comes from liking honey so much." Pooh rubbed his head so hard that he came up with an idea. He would borrow a balloon from his friend, Christopher Robin. "You can't get honey with a balloon," Christopher Robin told Pooh. "I can," said Pooh. "I shall hang onto the string and float up to the bee hole." Then Pooh rolled himself in mud until he was covered from his nose to his toes. "I'm pretending to be a little black storm cloud," Pooh told Christopher Robin, "to fool the bees." "Silly old bear," said Christopher Robin. He watched Pooh float up, up, up into the sky and dangle right beside the hole. Pooh reached in, pulled out a pawful of honey, as the bees began to buzz suspiciously around his head. "Christopher Robin," called Pooh, "I think the bees suspect that I'm not a little black storm cloud." With a swoosh, the balloon string loosened and the balloon began to lose air. It swooshed under Pooh and it swooshed over Pooh, and then it rose high above the treetops, with Pooh trailing along for the ride. "Oh my," said Pooh. Then the balloon had no more air at all, and down Pooh went, landing right on top of Christopher Robin. "Oh dear," said Pooh, shaking his head. "I guess it comes from liking honey so much." By then it was lunchtime, and Pooh was hungrier than ever. So he sat down to think, and he thought first about honey, then about Rabbit, because Rabbit always had some honey in his house. Pooh hurried to Rabbit's house. Come in, Pooh," said Rabbit. "Why, thank you, Rabbit," said Pooh. "How about some lunch?" Rabbit asked, knowing perfectly well what Pooh's answer would be. "Would you like some condensed milk or honey on your bread?" "Both," said Pooh. "But never mind the bread," he added, so as not to appear too greedy. Rabbit sat at the table and watched Pooh eat. First, Pooh had a little helping of condensed milk, then a little helping of honey. Then he had another helping of condensed milk and another helping of honey. Pooh ate and ate and ate. At last, Pooh rose slowly from the table and said in a rather sticky voice, "Goodbye, Rabbit. I must be going." Rabbit sighed. "Well, Pooh, if you're sure you won't have any more." "Well, is there any more?" asked Pooh. "No," said Rabbit wearily, "there isn't." "I thought so," said Pooh, and he started out Rabbit's front door. Pooh's head reached the outdoors, and his feet dangled indoors, but his middle got stuck in the middle. Pooh tried to go out, but he couldn't. He tried to go in, but he couldn't do that either. "Bother," said Pooh. "It all comes from not having a big enough front door." "Nonsense," said Rabbit sharply. "It all comes from eating too much." And he hurried out his back door to go fetch Christopher Robin. Now there was nothing for Pooh to do but wait. He looked at the trees blowing in the breeze. He watched the clouds sailing by in the blue sky. Then he wiggled his bottom and kicked his legs, just in case. But he was still stuck tight. So he looked at the trees some more and spotted Owl sitting on a branch. "Hello, Pooh," said Owl. "Are you stuck?" "Oh, no," said Pooh. "I'm just resting." Owl swooped down from his branch. "Pooh," he said, "you are definitely stuck. You are a wedged bear in a great tightness. This situation calls for an expert." "Did someone say expert?" asked Gopher. "Gopher's my name, digging's my game. Now, what seems to be the problem?" He quickly inspected the situation. "The problem with this door," Gopher said, "is that it has a bear in it. Now, we could dig him out, or we could dynamite him out." "Dynamite?" Pooh said in a very small voice. "Dynamite?" exclaimed Owl. "Nonsense. We can't dynamite. We might hurt him." "Well, think it over," said Gopher, popping back down in his hole. "Let me know if you change your mind." Finally Rabbit returned with Christopher Robin close behind. "Silly old bear," said Christopher Robin, shaking his head. And then he took hold of Pooh's paw, and Rabbit took hold of Christopher Robin's shirt. And they pulled and pulled and pulled. But Pooh was still stuck tight. "Pooh Bear," said Christopher Robin, "there is only one thing to do. We'll just have to wait for you to get thin." So they all waited. Christopher Robin read stories to Pooh. Owl lectured him on the dangers of eating too much. Kanga brought Pooh a kerchief to protect his head from the sun. Eeyore made gloomy predictions about how long it might take to get Pooh thinner. "It could be days," he said with a sigh. "Maybe weeks, even months." Rabbit grew tired of seeing Pooh's bottom and legs where his front door used to be, so he wedged a picture frame around Pooh and put a lace doily on Pooh's bottom. "And now for a little dash of color," he said, and set a flower pot on top of the doily on top of Pooh. But Pooh kicked his legs and the flower pot went crashing to the ground. Next, Rabbit found two branches that looked like antlers. With a paintbrush, he painted a moose face right on Pooh's bottom. For a finishing touch, Rabbit found a board and put it across Pooh's legs like a shelf. "Now that's more like it," he said. More time passed, and still Pooh wasn't getting any thinner. Kanga brought Roo over for a visit. "I brought you some honeysuckle, Pooh," said Roo. "Honeysuckle?" asked Pooh hungrily. "No, Pooh," said Kanga, laughing. "You don't eat it, you smell it." Pooh buried his nose in the flowers and sniffed. "Mmm," he said, and he sniffed again. "Ah." Then his nose began to tickle. "Ah," he said once more. "Ah, ah, achoo!" Down went Rabbit's new shelf, knickknacks and all. Oh dear," said Rabbit crossly. "Why did I ever invite that bear to lunch?" That night, Pooh was awakened by Gopher, who popped up to eat his midnight lunch. Pooh watched hungrily as Gopher ate. When Gopher took a honey pot from his lunchbox, Pooh just couldn't stand it anymore. "Please, Gopher," he pleaded, "could you spare a small smackerel of honey?" Inside, Rabbit heard voices. Why, he was sure he had just heard someone give Pooh some honey. Honey that would make him fatter and keep him stuck in Rabbit's front door even longer. "Stop, stop, stop!" Rabbit cried, and he rushed out his back door and round to the front door just in time to snatch the honey pot from Pooh's paws. "Not a bite!" he snapped. "Not a lick, not a drop!" Then he made a sign and stuck it right up in front of Pooh where everybody could see it. The sign said, "Don't feed the bear." The next morning, Rabbit was busy tidying up. He mopped his brow and leaned against Pooh's bottom to rest. Pooh moved. "He budged! Hooray! He budged!" Rabbit cried. He bitched, he badged, he booged. He stopped to catch his breath. "Christopher Robin!" he said. "I must get Christopher Robin!" And out his back door Rabbit went, off through the 100-acre wood just as fast as he could. Before Pooh knew it, along came a parade of his very good friends. Rabbit ran into his house and began to push Pooh's bottom. Christopher Robin grabbed Pooh's paws. Kanga grabbed Christopher Robin. Eeyore grabbed Kanga. Roo grabbed Eeyore, and they all pulled as hard as they possibly could. Just when they were beginning to think that perhaps Pooh hadn't budged after all, Rabbit backed up as far as he could and ran across the floor as fast as he could and threw himself at Pooh as hard as he could. Pop! Pooh flew out the doorway like a cork from a bottle and sailed straight toward another honey tree. He landed head first right inside the hole of the tree. Bzzz. Pooh's sudden appearance startled the bees, and they flew out of the tree and far away over the treetops. Winnie the Pooh considered his new surroundings. Everywhere he looked, he saw delicious, delightful, mouth-watering honey. "Don't worry, Pooh," cried Christopher Robin from way down below. "We'll get you out." "Take your time, Christopher Robin," said Pooh. "Take your time." It looks like Pooh is pretty happy in a tree full of honey. Wasn't that nice of all of Winnie the Pooh's friends to come and help get him out of Rabbit's door? This is one of my favorite quotes. I have many favorite quotes from Winnie the Pooh. And he says, "A day without a friend is like a pot without a single drop of honey left inside." Our next story is Winnie the Pooh and Tigger 2. I picked this story because Tigger is one of my favorite Pooh characters. He always seems to be so happy and so positive. One day in the 100-acre wood, Winnie the Pooh was sitting in his thoughtful spot when thoughts were interrupted by a sound that he knew very well. Boing, boing, boing. "Hello, Pooh. It's me, Tigger," exclaimed Tigger, bounding in and bouncing Pooh right off his log. T-I-double-G spells Tigger. "Yes, I know," said Pooh. "You've bounced me before." Tigger jumped up and shook Pooh's hand. "Well, I better be going now. I have a lot more bouncing to do." Nearby, Piglet was busy sweeping up outside his house. He began to hear a noise which started off smaller than Piglet himself, but quickly grew larger and larger. Suddenly, the noise turned into Tigger, who bounced Piglet right off of his feet. "Oh, Tigger, you scared me," said Piglet. "I did? But I gave you one of my littlest bounces. I'm saving my biggest bounce for old long ears," Tigger said. "Well, I'm glad I got one of your little bounces. Thank you, Tigger," said Piglet. He waved goodbye as Tigger bounced off down the road in the direction of Rabbit's house. "There, that should do it," said Rabbit as he gathered up an armload of carrots from his garden. But then he heard a noise he knew all too well. Boing, boing, boing. "Oh no!" cried Rabbit. "Stop!" But Tigger didn't stop. He bounced Rabbit right off his feet, sending the carrots flying in every which way. "Oh, Tigger, won't you ever stop bouncing?" Rabbit moaned. "Why would I? Bouncing is what Tiggers do best." "Woo!" exclaimed Tigger, and he started to sing. "Oh, the wonderful thing about Tiggers is Tiggers are wonderful things. Their tops are made of rubber, and their bottoms are made of springs. The bouncy, 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 fun, 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 fun. But the most wonderful thing about Tiggers is that I'm the only one." As Tigger bounced away, Rabbit stomped angrily around his garden, gathering up all his scattered carrots. "Something must be done about that Tigger," he said to himself. That afternoon, Rabbit invited Pooh and Piglet to a meeting at his house. "I say, Tigger is getting too bouncy these days," Rabbit began. "Now, I have got a splendid idea. We'll take Tigger on an expedition to some place he's never been, and then we'll lose him." "Lose him?" Pooh repeated. Losing someone did not sound to him like a very friendly thing to do. "Oh, we'll find him again the next morning," said Rabbit. "But by then, he'll be a humble Tigger. And oh, Rabbit, am I glad to see you, Tigger. It will take those bounces right out of him." The next morning, Rabbit, Piglet, Pooh, and Tigger set off on their expedition. The mist was so thick that they could hardly see their feet at the ends of their legs. Tigger bounced in circles around the others. He bounced ahead and came back again. Finally, he bounced off in some especially thick mist beside the trail, where he seemed to disappear. "Quick," Rabbit said eagerly. "Now's our chance to lose him." He ran into a hollow log and pulled Pooh and Piglet in behind him. Then he peeked out from inside the log and breathed a sigh of relief. Tigger was nowhere in sight. "My splendid idea worked perfectly," said Rabbit. "Now we can all go home." Pooh was very glad to hear that they were going home. "Yum, yum, time for lunch," Pooh said. "Hello!" cried cried a voice from not very far away. "Oh no, it's you-know-who," cried Rabbit. A second later, Tigger bounced up on the very log where Rabbit, Piglet, and Pooh were hiding. "Hello!" he shouted right into the log. Rabbit, Piglet, and Pooh didn't say a word. Tigger hopped off the log and bounced away into the 100-acre wood, still calling, "Hello!" Rabbit jumped out of the log. "Hooray!" he cried. "We've done it! We've lost Tigger. We can go home now." So they started off toward home. "It's funny how everything looks the same in the mist," said Rabbit a few minutes later. "Take this sand pit, for instance. I'm sure we've seen it before." "I'm sure you're right," said Pooh agreeably. They kept walking and soon came upon the same sand pit. Rabbit, what if as soon as we're out of sight of this pit, we try to find it again?" suggested Pooh. "Because, you see, we keep looking for home, but we keep finding this pit. So perhaps if we look for the pit, we might find home." "Nonsense," said Rabbit. "If I walked away from this pit and then walked back to it, of course I would find it again. Wait here, I'll prove it." With great determination, Rabbit set off into the mist. Pooh and Piglet sat down in the sand pit for him to return. They waited and waited and waited. Piglet fell asleep, leaning against Pooh's tummy. Suddenly he was awakened by a grumbling sound. "What's that?" asked Piglet, jumping up. "Why, I believe that is my tummy rumbling," said Pooh. "I'm awfully hungry. I think we should go home and have lunch." "Do you know the way, Pooh?" asked Piglet. "Well, I have 12 pots of honey in my cupboard that my tummy very much wants to find. So we can simply follow my tummy home," Pooh explained. Piglet tried to be as quiet as possible so that Pooh's tummy could concentrate. Just then, as Piglet began to know where he was, boing, 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 it was Tigger. "Hello there, you two," he said. "Where have you been?" "We've been trying to find our way home," said Pooh. "But we have lost Rabbit somewhere in the mist," added Piglet. "Well, leave it to Tigger," said Tigger. "I will bounce him out of there in no time." At that very moment, Rabbit was as lost as a rabbit could be. He was also so scared that he was trembling from his ears all the way down to his toes. Little noises he wouldn't have noticed on a sunny day suddenly sounded loud and frightening. Soon Rabbit was so scared that he just couldn't stand it anymore. He ran as fast as his legs would carry him and ran straight into Tigger! cried Rabbit. Rabbit had never been so happy to see Tigger before. "You're supposed to be lost." "Lost? Tiggers never get lost," said Tigger. "Come on, Rabbit, let's go home. Hang on." Tigger placed his tail in Rabbit's hand and then bounced off towards home. Rabbit held on tight through the mist and the mud, and he was now a thoroughly humiliated rabbit. A lost and found rabbit. Why do these things happen to me, Rabbit? But more than anything else, he was a happy to be going home rabbit. A short while after Rabbit's getting lost adventure, it began to snow in the 100-acre wood. The snow fell quietly all night long. In the morning, a soft white blanket covered all the houses in the forest, including the house where Kanga and Little Roo lived. "Mama, when is Tigger going to get here?" asked Roo. "Be patient, dear," said Kanga as she swept a path through the snow. "He will be here soon." Almost before the words were out of her mouth, Kanga and Roo heard a familiar sound. Boing, boing, boing. "Here I am," said Tigger. "Did I surprise you?" "You sure did," said Roo. "I like surprises. I like bouncing, too." "I know," said Tigger. "That's why I'm here. I've come to take you bouncing with me." "Hooray!" said Roo. Roo and Tigger said goodbye to Kanga, and then Tigger led the way out of the yard with his great big bounces. Boing, boing, boing. And Roo followed right behind him with his very little ones. Boing, boing, boing. When Tigger and Roo had gone a short distance into the forest, Tigger called, "Hey, look, Roo! It's old Longears." Rabbit was gliding happily across the frozen pond. In fact, Rabbit was enjoying his skating so much that he didn't even see Tigger and Roo. "Can Tiggers ice skate?" asked Roo. "Oh," said Tigger. "Ice skating is what Tiggers do best. Watch." Tigger bounced down the pond. "Whee! This is easy," he said as he slid across the ice. First he skated on one foot, then the other. Next he tried to skate on the tip of his tail, and that's when he started wiggling and wobbling and slipping across the ice straight toward Rabbit. "Look out!" Tigger cried. "I can't stop." When Rabbit turned and saw Tigger headed his way, his eyes grew very wide. He threw up his hands. "No, no, don't!" he shouted. But Tigger, who had very little choice in the matter, just kept going. He crashed right into Rabbit, then slid into the snow. Rabbit went flying through the front door of his house, knocking over everything inside. Why does it always have to be me?" moaned Rabbit. "Why, oh why, oh why?" "Ugh," Tigger said, spitting out a mouthful of snow. "Tiggers do not like ice skating." Tigger and Roo left Rabbit and bounced further into the wood. "I bet you're good at climbing trees, huh, Tigger?" said Roo. "Hoo-hoo-hoo!" laughed Tigger. "That's what Tiggers do best. Only Tiggers don't climb trees, they bounce them. Come on." With Roo on his shoulders, Tigger bounced from branch to branch up to the very tippy top of the very tallest tree. "Very good bouncing, huh?" said Tigger. But when he saw how far he was from the ground, he wrapped his arms around the tree trunk and cried, "How did this tree get so high?" Suddenly he felt a tug on the end of his tail and looked down to see Roo swinging back and forth from the end of it. "Stop that, kid, please. You're rocking the forest," begged Tigger. While Tigger was busy getting stuck in the tree, Pooh and Piglet were busy tracking some footprints around the bush. They stopped when they heard a loud, "Hello!" "Look, Piglet," said Pooh. "There's something in that tree over there." "Hello!" called the voice again. "Pooh! Piglet!" called a second, smaller voice. When he looked more carefully, Pooh saw that something in the tree was actually Tigger and Roo. "Hello," said Pooh. "What are you doing up there?" "Well, I'm all right, but Tigger's stuck," said Roo. "Help! Somebody, please, help!" cried Tigger. "Go get Christopher Robin!" It wasn't long before Christopher Robin arrived with Kanga and Rabbit right behind him. "My goodness," said Kanga, looking up. "How did you get up there, Roo?" "It was easy, Mama. We bounced up," said Roo. "But now Tigger's stuck." "That's too bad," said Kanga. "No, that's good," said Rabbit happily. "Tigger can't bounce anybody as long as he's stuck up in that tree." "We can't just leave him up there. We have to get them down," said Christopher Robin. "Now, everybody take hold of my coat. Ready? Okay, you're first, Roo. Jump." "Try not to fall too fast, dear," said Kanga. Here I come. Whee! Cried Roo. He landed safely in the middle of Christopher Robin's coat, then popped up into Kanga's arms. That was fun, said Roo. Come on, Tigger, jump. Jump? Tigers don't jump. They bounce, said Tigger, clutching the tree even tighter than ever. Then why don't you bounce down? Suggested Pooh. Don't be ridiculous. Tigers only bounce up, said Tigger. Then you'll have to climb down, said Christopher Robin. Tigers can't climb down because their tails get in the way, said Tigger, and he wrapped his tail tightly around the tree branch. That settles it, said Rabbit. If Tigger won't jump or climb down, we'll have to leave him up there forever. Forever? Moaned Tigger. Oh, if I ever get down from this tree, I promise never to bounce again. I heard that, cried Rabbit, jumping for joy. Did you all hear that? Tigger promised never to bounce again. All right, Tigger, Christopher Robin called up. It's time for you to come down now. Finally, Tigger unwound his tail from the branch and slowly, very carefully, climbed down. As soon as his feet touched the ground, Tigger was his old cheerful self again. Hey, I'm so happy to be out of that tree, I feel like bouncing, he cried. Don't forget what you promised, Rabbit said quickly. No more bouncing. Oh, said Tigger. Does that mean I can never bounce again? Not even one teensy-weensy little bounce? Not a smidgen of a bounce, said Rabbit. Tigger's tail flopped, his shoulders dropped, and he walked off sadly towards home. Tigger's friends watched him go. Roo tugged on Christopher Robin's coat and said, I like the old bouncy Tigger best. So do I, Roo, said Christopher Robin. Me too, said Piglet, and Pooh nodded along. We all do, said Kanga. Don't you agree, Rabbit? Well, said Rabbit, he thought about all the times Tigger had bounced him off his feet. Yes, Rabbit, said Pooh. Well, you see, said Rabbit, he thought about how sad Tigger looked walking off without his bounce. Oh, all right, said Rabbit at last. I guess I like the old Tigger better, too. Oh, boy, shouted Tigger, who had heard Rabbit from far away. He returned with a quick bounce. You mean I can have my bounce back? He picked up Rabbit and hugged him. Come on, Rabbit, let's bounce together. Rabbit couldn't believe his ears. Me? Bounce? He said. Well, sure, said Tigger. Look, you've got the feet for it. I do? Asked Rabbit. Everyone looked down at Rabbit's feet. No one had ever noticed before what good bouncing feet they were. Rabbit tried a little bounce, then a bigger one, then a bigger one than that. Before long, he was bouncing just like Tigger, and a smile spread across Rabbit's face. Well, come on, everybody, he said. So together, Pooh, Piglet, Kanga, Roo, Tigger, Rabbit, and Christopher Robin happily bounced all through the 100-acre wood. Winnie the Pooh and his friends really show what friendship means, don't they? They help each other out so much. That is our story time this week. I really hope you enjoyed our Winnie the Pooh stories. We'll see you next time.